Jake Martinez stared at his physics textbook and sighed. The words seemed to dance on the page, making no sense at all. His roommate Kyle had left for his evening jog again, which meant Jake had the dorm room to himself for at least an hour. Living at New Phoenix University meant sharing a tiny room with a complete stranger. The housing department had randomly matched Jake with Kyle 3 months ago. At first, Jake thought he was lucky. Kyle was quiet, clean, and never brought loud friends over. But as time passed, Jake noticed strange things about his roommate. Kyle never ate in front of him, ever. Jake would invite him to grab pizza or hit the cafeteria together, but Kyle always had an excuse. I already ate, or I'm not hungry right now, or I have a special diet. Jake had never once seen Kyle put food in his mouth. Then there were Kyle's clothes. No matter how hot it got in their room, Kyle wore long sleeves and pants. Even during the heat wave last month when their air conditioning broke, Kyle kept himself completely covered. Jake had asked about it once, but Kyle just said he had sensitive skin. The humming was the weirdest part. Sometimes late at night, Jake would hear Kyle making these low sounds. They weren't quite musical, but they weren't random either. The vibrations seemed to go right through Jake's bones and make his teeth ache. When Jake mentioned it, Kyle looked genuinely confused and said he didn't know what Jake was talking about. Despite all the odd behavior, Kyle was a good roommate. He kept his side of the room neat, never hogged the bathroom, and actually helped Jake with his homework sometimes. Kyle seemed to understand physics and chemistry better than most of the professors. Jake looked at his textbook again and felt frustrated. The chapter on gravitational fields made no sense to him, which was ironic. Jake had a secret that he'd never told anyone, not even his parents. He could control gravity around small objects. He'd discovered this ability when he was 12 years old. It started with a pencil that wouldn't fall off his desk no matter how many times he knocked it over. At first, Jake thought it was stuck with something, but then he realized he was making it float without touching it. Over the years, he'd practiced in secret, learning to lift books, move his phone across the room, and even make his alarm clock hover above his nightstand. Jake had never told anyone about his ability because he was scared. What if people thought he was crazy? What if scientists wanted to study him? What if the government took him away? So he kept it secret and only used it when he was completely alone. Tonight felt like one of those times. Kyle would be gone for at least an hour, and Jake's physics homework was impossible to understand just by reading. Maybe if he could see gravity in action, it would make more sense. Jake closed his textbook and looked around the room to make sure he was alone. He could hear music playing in the room next door and voices in the hallway, but his room was empty except for him. He started small, lifting his pen off his desk. It rose smoothly into the air and hovered 3 feet above the surface. Jake smiled. This never got old. He moved the pen in slow circles, then made it dance in figure eights. Feeling more confident, Jake lifted his physics textbook. The heavy book rose from his lap and floated in front of him, pages gently turning as if moved by an invisible breeze. Next came his notebook, then his calculator, then his water bottle. Soon Jake had 6 objects spinning slowly around him like a miniature solar system. This was what Jake loved most about his ability. When he used it, everything felt peaceful and right. The objects moved exactly where he wanted them to go, responding to his thoughts as naturally as his own hands and feet. He could feel the gravitational fields around each item, sense their weight and balance. Jake decided to try something more complex. He arranged his textbooks in a stack and lifted the entire pile, then spread them out in a fan pattern above his head. Each book opened to a different page, and Jake slowly rotated them so he could see all the pictures and diagrams at once. The physics textbook showed a diagram of planets orbiting the sun. Jake made his calculator orbit around his water bottle in the same pattern. His chemistry book had a picture of molecular structures, so Jake arranged his pens to form the same shapes in the air. For the first time in weeks, physics was starting to make sense. Jake could feel the relationships between objects, the way gravity pulled and pushed and balanced. He was so focused on his floating textbooks that he didn't hear the footsteps in the hallway. He didn't hear his door handle turn. He didn't notice the door opening until a familiar voice said, You're not fully human, are you? Jake's concentration shattered. Every floating object crashed to the floor at once. Books slammed down. Pens scattered across the carpet, and his water bottle hit the ground so hard the cap popped off, and water splashed everywhere. Jake spun around to see Kyle standing in the doorway, still wearing his jogging clothes. But Kyle didn't look surprised or scared or confused like Jake expected. Instead, his eyes were wide with something that looked almost like relief. I can explain, Jake stammered, his heart pounding, so hard he thought it might burst. This isn't what it looks like. I mean, it is what it looks like, but I'm not dangerous or anything. I would never hurt anyone. Please don't tell anyone. Please don't. Jake, Kyle said quietly, stepping into the room and closing the door behind him. How long have you been able to do that? The question caught Jake off guard. Kyle wasn't asking what Jake had been doing or if he was okay or whether Jake was some kind of freak. He was asking how long Jake had been able to manipulate gravity. Since I was 12, Jake answered without thinking. Kyle nodded slowly, like this made perfect sense to him. He walked over to his bed and sat down, looking at Jake with an expression that was hard to read. I've been wondering, Kyle said. There were signs, but I wasn't sure. Your reaction to certain sounds, the way you move sometimes, little things that didn't quite fit. What do you mean? Jake asked. Kyle was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked Jake straight in the eyes and said, My name isn't really Kyle. It's Kyleth. I'm not from Earth, Jake. I'm not human at all. Jake stared at Kyle for what felt like forever. The words, I'm not human, echoed in his head, but they didn't make sense. Kyle looked completely normal. He had brown hair, regular eyes, and skin that looked just like everyone else's. You're joking, Jake said finally. This is some kind of prank, right? Kyle shook his head. I wish it were that simple. But you look human. You talk like a human. You go to classes and jog and everything. My people are very good at blending in, Kyle said. We've been studying your species for a long time. We've learned how to look like you, how to act like you. To prove his point, Kyle rolled up his sleeves. Jake gasped. Kyle's arms were covered in thin silver lines that looked like circuit boards under his skin. The patterns pulsed with a soft blue light. This is why I always wear long sleeves, Kyle explained. These marks show up when I'm relaxed or not concentrating on hiding them. Jake's legs felt weak. He sat down hard on his bed, trying to process what he was seeing. So you're really an alien? Yes. My real name is Kyleth. I'm from a planet called Zephyr Prime. My people are called Zephyrians. Kyle's voice sounded different now, like he was dropping a fake accent Jake hadn't even noticed before. Why are you here? Why are you pretending to be a college student? Kyle looked uncomfortable. I'm what you would call a scout. My job is to watch Earth and report on human development. Specifically, I watch for humans like you. Like me? Humans with special abilities. Psychic powers. What you just did with gravity manipulation? That's exactly what my government sent me to look for. Jake felt cold all over. Are you going to turn me in or something? No, Kyle said quickly. That's the problem. I was supposed to report any humans with strong psychic abilities, but I haven't. I've been filing false reports for 2 years telling my superiors that human psychic development is minimal and not worth worrying about. Why would you lie? Kyle stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the campus where students were walking between buildings, laughing and talking like everything was normal. Because I like humans, he said. I've lived among you for 3 years now. I've watched you care for each other, fight for what's right, never give up even when things seem impossible. You're not the violent, dangerous species my government thinks you are. Your government thinks we're dangerous? Very dangerous. And humans with psychic abilities are considered the most dangerous of all. Kyle turned away from the window and faced Jake again. The silver marks on his arms were glowing, brighter now. Jake, you need to understand something. You're not the only human with abilities. There are thousands of you all over Earth. Some can read minds, some can move things with their thoughts, some can see the future, some can do things that even my advanced species can't do. Jake's mind was racing. There are thousands of people like me? more every year. Human psychic abilities are developing faster than anyone expected. Most species take millions of years to develop powers like yours. Humans are doing it in just a few generations. Is that bad? Kyle sighed. My government thinks so. There's something called the Galactic Council. It's like the United Nations, but for different alien species across the galaxy. They have rules about what to do when a species starts developing psychic abilities. What kind of rules? The kind that don't end well for the species involved. Kyle's expression was grim. Usually they wait until the abilities are widespread. Then they move in to contain the situation. Sometimes that means relocating all the psychic individuals to controlled environments. Sometimes it means quarantining the entire planet. Jake felt sick. You mean like a prison? Exactly like a prison. And Jake, I think my time is running out. Other scouts will come to verify my reports when they see how many humans have developed abilities and how strong those abilities are getting. Kyle didn't finish the sentence, but Jake understood. How long do we have? I don't know. Maybe months, maybe a year. But there's something else you should know. There are others here on Earth who are preparing for this. Others? Humans with abilities like yours and a few aliens who disagree with the Council's methods. They've been building a network, getting ready for when the Council eventually comes. Jake thought about everything Kyle had told him. A few hours ago, his biggest worry was passing his physics exam. Now he was learning about galactic governments and alien scouts and psychic abilities developing across his entire species. What happens now? Jake asked. That depends on you. I can keep pretending I don't know about your abilities. You can keep hiding them and maybe the other scouts won't notice you when they come. You might be safe. Or I can introduce you to the network. You can learn to use your abilities properly, meet others like you, and help prepare for what's coming. Jake looked around their small dorm room. Everything looked the same as it had an hour ago, but everything had changed. His textbooks were still scattered on the floor where they'd fallen. His physics homework was still impossible. But now he knew that his roommate was an alien scout, that there were thousands of humans with psychic powers, and that an intergalactic government might be coming to lock them all up. If I join this network, will I be able to help people? Kyle smiled for the first time since he'd revealed his true identity. Jake, your gravity manipulation is stronger than anything I've seen from a human before. If you learned to use it properly, you could save lives. You could move collapsed buildings off trapped people, redirect falling debris, maybe even help defend Earth if it comes to that. Jake thought about all the times he'd used his ability in secret, wishing he could help people but too scared to reveal himself. Maybe this was his chance. Okay, Jake said. I want to meet the others. Kyle nodded. I'll make some calls. There's someone you need to meet. Her name is Lisa Rodriguez. She used to be a Marine captain before she discovered she could phase through solid matter. She's been organizing the enhanced humans and planning for what's coming. Enhanced humans. That's what we call people like you. Humans whose abilities have been enhanced beyond normal parameters. Jake stood up and started picking up his scattered books. Kyleth, thank you for not turning me in. Thank you for trusting me with your secret. And Jake? You can still call me Kyle. I've gotten used to it. As Jake stacked his textbooks, he noticed they felt lighter than usual. Without thinking about it, he was reducing their gravitational pull slightly. For the first time in his life, he didn't have to hide it. Everything had changed indeed. 3 days later, Kyle led Jake through a maintenance door in the new Phoenix subway system. The tunnels had been abandoned for 20 years, ever since the city built the new maglev lines above ground. Jake had never thought about what happened to all the old underground passages. Stay close, Kyle said, pulling out a flashlight. The network moved down here because it's one of the few places on Earth that's completely hidden from orbital scans. They walked through dark tunnels for what felt like miles. Jake could hear water dripping somewhere in the distance and the occasional scurry of small animals. The air smelled like concrete and rust. How many people know about this place? Jake asked. About 50 enhanced humans plus a handful of sympathetic aliens like me, Kyle replied. Lisa has been very careful about who gets invited. Finally, they reached a heavy metal door with no markings. Kyle knocked in a complicated pattern. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 30s with short black hair and intense brown eyes. "You must be Jake," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Lisa Rodriguez. Kyle has told me a lot about your abilities." Jake shook her hand and was surprised by her strong grip. "He said you used to be a Marine?" "3 tours overseas before I discovered I could walk through walls," Lisa said with a slight smile. "Made military life complicated." She led them through the doorway into a space that took Jake's breath away. The abandoned subway platform had been transformed into a high-tech command center. Computer screens lined the walls, showing maps, satellite feeds, and streams of data Jake didn't recognize. People moved between workstations, some looking completely human, others clearly alien. "Welcome to operations," Lisa said. "This is where we monitor galactic communications and track Council fleet movements." "Council fleet movements?" Jake asked. "They're already positioning ships beyond Neptune," Lisa explained. "Not enough for an invasion yet, but enough to watch us very carefully." Kyle guided Jake toward a group of people sitting around a table covered in electronic equipment. "Jake, I want you to meet some of the other enhanced humans." A young woman with bright red hair looked up from a tablet. "Hi, I'm Amy Chen. Kyle says you can manipulate gravity?" "Sort of," Jake said, still feeling awkward about admitting his abilities to strangers. "Show her," Kyle encouraged. Jake looked around nervously, then focused on Amy's tablet. He lifted it gently from her hands and made it float in a slow circle above the table. "That's incredible," said a man with dark skin and kind eyes. "I'm Marcus Johnson. I work with electromagnetic fields." To demonstrate, Marcus held up his hand. Sparks of electricity danced between his fingers, forming complex patterns in the air. "And I'm Sophia Reyes," said a petite woman with long brown hair. "I can tap into quantum probability fields." "What does that mean?" Jake asked, lowering Amy's tablet back to the table. "I can see possible futures," Sophia explained. "Not just one future, but dozens of different ways things might happen. It's like seeing a branching tree of possibilities." Jake felt overwhelmed. There are really this many people with abilities? "Way more than this," Amy said. "We estimate there are at least 10,000 enhanced humans on Earth right now. Maybe more. Most of them don't even know what they can do," Marcus added. "They think they're just lucky or intuitive or good at guessing." A tall, blue-skinned alien approached their group. His head was larger than a human's, and he had 4 arms instead of 2. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind through metal. "Jake Martinez," the alien said formally. "I am Dr. Vextar, formerly of the Galactic Council Science Division." "Formerly?" Jake asked. "I defected when I learned what the Council planned for your species," Dr. Vextar explained. "I came to Earth to help prepare for what is coming." Lisa joined the group carrying a cup of coffee. "Dr. Vextar has been invaluable in helping us understand Council technology and tactics." "What can you tell me about the Council?" Jake asked. Dr. Vextar's expression grew serious. "The Galactic Council represents 47 different species across this arm of the galaxy. For the most part, they maintain peace and facilitate trade. But they have strict protocols for dealing with what they call emerging psychic threats." "Humans are considered a threat?" "Not ordinary humans, but enhanced humans like yourself are seen as extremely dangerous." "Why?" Dr. Vextar gestured to the group around the table. "Most species develop psychic abilities over millions of years. The process is slow, predictable, and manageable. But humans are different. Your abilities are appearing rapidly and unpredictably. Worse, from the Council's perspective, is that human psychic powers seem to be stronger and more varied than anything they've encountered." Sophia spoke up. "Dr. Vextar, show him the projection you showed us last week." The alien scientist pulled out a device that looked like a crystal tablet. He touched it, and a 3-dimensional image appeared in the air above the table. "This is a comparison of psychic development across different species," Dr. Vextar explained. The image showed several curved lines rising slowly over long periods of time. "These represent normal psychic evolution," Powers develop gradually, reaching moderate levels over geological time periods. He touched the device again and a new line appeared. This one shot upward like a rocket. This is human psychic development. In just 50 Earth years, your species has gone from no documented psychic abilities to producing individuals whose powers exceed anything the Council has on record. Jake stared at the projection. What makes humans different? We don't fully understand it yet, Dr. Vexistar admitted. It may be related to your genetic diversity, your brain structure, or something about your planetary environment. But the rate of development is unprecedented. Amy leaned forward. There's something else. Show him the combination effect. Dr. Vextar nodded and adjusted his device. The projection changed to show multiple human figures working together. We've discovered something the Council hasn't figured out yet, he said. When enhanced humans work together, their abilities don't just add up. They multiply. To demonstrate, Amy stood up and placed her hand on Marcus's shoulder. Suddenly, the electrical patterns dancing around Marcus's fingers became visible streams of light that Amy could touch and reshape. I can phase electromagnetic energy, Amy explained. Normally, I can only phase through solid matter, but when I work with Marcus, I can manipulate energy fields directly. Sophia joined them, placing her hand on Amy's arm. The light streams began showing multiple versions of themselves, each slightly different. And I can see the probability outcomes of their combined effects, Sophia said. Together we can predict and control electromagnetic phenomena in ways none of us could manage alone. Jake watched in amazement as the three enhanced humans created a light show that was both beautiful and clearly powerful. The Council doesn't know about this multiplication effect, Dr. Vextar said. They're planning for individual threats, not cooperative ones. Lisa set down her coffee cup. Which brings us to why you're here, Jake. We need every enhanced human we can find, and we need them trained to work together. What exactly are you preparing for? The inevitable, Lisa said grimly. Dr. Vextar's intelligence suggests the Council will make their move within the next 6 months. They'll demand that all enhanced humans be turned over for relocation and rehabilitation. And if Earth refuses, planetary quarantine. They'll surround Earth with ships and make sure no one gets in or out. Ever. Jake looked around the converted subway platform, taking in the computers, the weapons, the determined faces of humans and aliens working side by side. You're planning to fight them. We're planning to show them that humanity won't be caged, Lisa corrected. Whether that means fighting or negotiating, we'll be ready. Dr. Vextar put away his projection device. Jake, your gravity manipulation abilities could be crucial to our defense plans. Combined with the others' powers, you might be able to create gravitational shields around entire cities. I've never tried anything that big. That's what the training is for, Amy said with a grin. Wait until you see what you can really do. As Jake looked at the faces around him, he felt something he'd never experienced before. For the first time in his life, he wasn't alone with his secret. He was part of something bigger, something important. When do we start? He asked. Lisa smiled. How about right now? 6 months of training had changed everything Jake thought he knew about his abilities. What started as floating textbooks had grown into something incredible. He could now create gravitational fields strong enough to redirect incoming missiles, lift entire vehicles, and even generate localized artificial gravity in space. But none of that mattered when the message came. Jake was in the training room with Amy and Marcus, practicing their combination techniques, when every screen in the underground facility lit up at once. Lisa's voice echoed through the speakers. All personnel to operations immediately. Priority Alpha. They ran through the tunnels to find the main platform in chaos. People were shouting, typing frantically, and staring at the screens in disbelief. Jake pushed through the crowd to see what had everyone so panicked. On every monitor was the same image. A massive alien fleet hanging in space above Earth. The ships were sleek and silver, arranged in perfect formation. There had to be hundreds of them. They just appeared, Dr. Vextar said, his blue skin pale with worry. No advance warning, no buildup. The entire Council enforcement fleet just materialized in Earth's outer atmosphere, Lisa stood at the center of the chaos, barking orders into a communication device. Get me a line to the Pentagon. Contact our people in Beijing, Moscow, and London. I want to know what the world governments are planning. A communication officer looked up from her station. Lisa, we're receiving a broadcast on all frequencies. It's from the fleet. Put it on speakers. A cold, mechanical voice filled the underground facility. The words were in perfect English, but the tone was completely inhuman. People of Earth, I am Commandant Zektar of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division. Your planet has been identified as harboring individuals with uncontrolled psychic abilities. These individuals pose a significant threat to galactic stability and peace. Jake felt his blood run cold. The Galactic Council hereby demands the immediate surrender of all psychically enhanced humans for relocation and rehabilitation. You have 72 standard hours to comply. Enhanced individuals will be transported to secure facilities where they can receive proper treatment and education. Amy grabbed Jake's arm. Treatment and education? Prison and brainwashing, Dr. Vextar. Translated grimly, the voice continued. Any attempt to hide or protect these individuals will be considered an act of aggression against the Galactic Council. Failure to comply within the specified time frame will result in the implementation of planetary quarantine protocols. The message repeated in dozens of different languages, then cut off. The underground facility was silent for a long moment. Then everyone started talking at once. How many ships are there? What's the response from Washington? Can we fight them? Lisa whistled sharply, and everyone fell quiet. Dr. Vextar, what exactly does planetary quarantine mean? The alien scientist looked sick. They surround the planet with ships equipped with interdiction fields. Nothing gets in or out. No trade, no communication, no travel. Earth would be completely isolated from the galaxy. For how long? Forever. Marcus stepped forward. What? About the governments? Will they fight? Lisa shook her head. I just got word from our contacts. The UN Security Council is meeting an emergency session, but early reports suggest they're leaning toward compliance. They want to hand us over? Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. Think about it from their perspective, Lisa said. They're facing a fleet of ships with technology thousands of years ahead of ours. To them, trading a few thousand enhanced humans for the safety of the entire planet probably seems like an easy choice. Sophia had been quiet through the whole exchange, but now she spoke up. I've been running probability calculations since the fleet appeared. If we hide and hope the governments protect us, there's less than a 3% chance of success. What, about fighting? Amy asked. Conventional military resistance? Less than 1%. Jake felt despair settling over the room like a heavy blanket. They'd trained for 6 months, but what could 50 enhanced humans do against hundreds of advanced alien warships? Then Sophia smiled. But I've been seeing another possibility. It's risky, but the success rate is much higher. What is it? Lisa asked. We don't hide. We don't run. We reveal ourselves to the entire world. Dr. Vextar's forearms gestured in confusion. I don't understand. That would make you easier to find. Exactly, Sophia said. Jake, remember what you told me about feeling ashamed of your abilities before you met us? Jake nodded. He'd spent years thinking he was a freak, something wrong that needed to be hidden. Now imagine if instead of hiding, we showed the world what we can really do. Not as weapons or threats, but as protectors and helpers. Amy's eyes lit up. Operation Prometheus. What's Operation Prometheus? Jake asked. Lisa was already moving toward the communication station. Something we hoped we'd never have to use. A coordinated global broadcast showing enhanced humans using their abilities to help people. But won't that just make it easier for the Council to find us? Yes, Lisa said. But it will also show normal humans that we're not the threat the Council claims we are. If we can get the people of Earth on our side, the governments will have a much harder time handing us over, Marcus finished. Dr. Vextar was thinking hard. It's dangerous, but it might work. The Council is expecting Earth to either hide its enhanced humans or surrender them quietly. They're not prepared for a planet that openly embraces its psychic population. Lisa was already typing commands into the communication system. I'm sending the signal to our cells worldwide. We go live in 2 hours. What do you need me to do? Jake asked. Remember that collapsed building in downtown New Phoenix? The one from the earthquake last month? Jake nodded. The building had been condemned after the disaster, but it was right. In the middle of the business district. Demolishing it safely would take months. You're going to lift it. What? In front of every news camera in the city, you're going to use your gravity manipulation to safely remove that building and clear the street. Jake's heart started racing. I've never tried anything that big in public. Amy will phase through the building first to make sure no one's trapped inside. Marcus will use his electromagnetic abilities to safely disconnect all the power lines. Sophia will guide you through the probability streams to avoid any accidents. And then you show the world what enhanced humans can really do. Over the next 2 hours, similar conversations were happening around the globe. Enhanced humans who had been hiding their abilities for years were preparing to step into the spotlight. A telekinetic in London would help rebuild a bridge damaged by flooding. A pyrokinetic in Moscow would safely burn out a chemical spill. A telepath in Tokyo would help locate survivors trapped in a subway accident. But the most important broadcasts would be happening right here in New Phoenix. Jake stood on a rooftop overlooking the collapsed building. Cameras from every major news network pointed at him. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. For the first time in his life, he was about to use his abilities to help people, openly and without shame. Amy emerged from the building, her face appearing as she phased back into normal matter. It's clear. No people, no animals, nothing that will be hurt. Marcus had already disconnected the electrical systems, rerouting power around the damaged building. Sophia stood beside Jake, her eyes closed as she tracked probability streams. I can see it, she said softly. The path that leads to success. Follow my voice and I'll guide you through it. Jake took a deep breath and reached out with his abilities. He could feel the weight of the entire building, thousands of tons of concrete and steel and glass. Slowly, carefully, he began to reduce its gravitational pull. The building shuddered, then rose smoothly into the air. All around the world, enhanced humans were revealing themselves. And everything was about to change. The collapsed building rose into the air like it weighed nothing at all. Jake held it steady 30 feet above the street, while construction crews quickly cleared the debris underneath. News cameras captured every moment as he gently lowered the structure onto waiting transport vehicles. But Jake barely noticed the cameras or the cheering crowd. He was focused on the voices in his earpiece, reports coming in from enhanced humans around the world. London Bridge reconstruction complete, came Amy's voice. She had phased through the damaged supports while a telekinetic lifted the broken sections back into place. Chemical spill in Moscow contained, Marcus reported. He was working with a pyrokinetic to safely burn off toxic gases that would have taken weeks to clean up normally. Subway rescue in Tokyo successful, Sophia added. 12 people pulled from the collapsed tunnel, all alive. Within 3 hours, enhanced humans had performed dozens of rescue and reconstruction operations across the globe. Every major news network was broadcasting the footage, and social media exploded with videos of people using incredible abilities to help others. The reaction from ordinary humans was not what Jake had expected. Instead of fear or suspicion, most people seemed amazed and hopeful. Comments poured in praising the enhanced humans as heroes and protectors. But the Galactic Council's response was swift and brutal. Jake had just returned to the underground facility when the first attack ships appeared over major cities. They were smaller than the main fleet but heavily armed, and their mission was clear: capture or eliminate any enhanced humans they could find. Pacification drones incoming, Dr. Vextar announced, studying the sensor readings. They're targeting areas where enhanced humans revealed themselves. Lisa was already coordinating the response. All teams execute Defense Protocol 7. Jake, Amy, Marcus, Sophia, you're with me. We're going to show these drones what happens when they threaten our people. They emerged from the subway tunnels to find New Phoenix under attack. The drones were sleek, silver aircraft that moved with impossible speed and precision. They fired energy beams that could stun enhanced humans while leaving normal people unharmed. But the drones hadn't counted on enhanced humans fighting back as a coordinated team. Jake reached out with his gravity manipulation, not to attack the drones directly, but to create a massive gravitational shield over the city center. The energy beams from the attacking ships curved harmlessly away, redirected by the artificial gravitational field. Amy phased into the electromagnetic spectrum, becoming a being of pure energy. She flowed through the city's power grid, taking control of every electronic system and turning the drone's own technology against them. Marcus worked with her, generating electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the drone's navigation systems. But instead of random interference, he created precise patterns guided by Sophia's probability calculations. Sophia stood at the center of their formation. Her consciousness spread across hundreds of possible futures. She called out directions and warnings, helping her teammates avoid attacks that hadn't even been fired yet. Jake, gravitational pulse in 3 seconds, northwest quadrant, she called out. Jake created a localized gravity well that pulled 2 attacking drones together, causing them to collide and crash. Amy, phase the power grid in Sector 7. Marcus, electromagnetic burst on my mark. Amy flowed through electrical lines while Marcus charged up a massive pulse. Together, they overloaded the drone's shield systems just as Jake dropped them toward the ground with increased gravity. But the most amazing thing happened when other enhanced humans around the world started joining the fight remotely. We're getting connections from London, Moscow, Tokyo, and 12 other cities, Dr. Vextar announced from the command center. The enhanced humans there are somehow linking their abilities with yours. Jake could feel it happening. His gravity manipulation was being amplified by telekinetics thousands of miles away. Amy's energy phasing was enhanced by other electromagnetic manipulators. Marcus's electrical control was boosted by pyrokinetics and cryokinetics who understood energy flow. What had started as a local defense of New Phoenix became a global network of enhanced humans working together across continents. The effect was beyond anything the Galactic Council had anticipated. The pacification drones found themselves facing not individual psychics, but a coordinated planetary defense system that could predict their moves, counter their technology, and turn their own weapons against them. Within 6 hours, every drone sent to Earth had been disabled or destroyed. From the command ship above Earth, Commandant Zektar sent another broadcast. But this time, his mechanical voice carried a note of uncertainty. The Galactic Council acknowledges the defensive capabilities demonstrated by Earth's enhanced population. However, this display of coordinated resistance only confirms that your species poses a significant threat to galactic stability. Jake and his teammates listened to the broadcast from the underground facility, surrounded by cheering enhanced humans and their alien allies. We are prepared to implement full quarantine protocols, the Commandant continued. Earth will be isolated from all galactic contact until your psychic population can be properly contained. Lisa stepped forward to the main communication console. Open a channel to the Council fleet, all frequencies. Lisa, what are you doing? Jake asked. Something that should have been done a long time ago, she replied. This is Lisa Rodriguez, speaking for the enhanced humans of Earth. We have a message for the Galactic Council. Her voice was broadcast not just to the alien fleet, but to every communication system on Earth and beyond. You came here expecting to find a threat. Instead, you found protectors. You sent weapons to capture us. We used them to defend innocent people. You tried to turn our own planet against us. Instead, humanity has embraced what we can become. Jake watched the screens showing celebrations in cities around the world. Normal humans and enhanced humans were working together, cleaning up after the drone attacks and helping each other rebuild. Are not the threat you think we are, Lisa continued. We are the future of our species and we choose to use our abilities to protect and help, not to conquer and destroy. Dr. Vexistar was monitoring the Council fleet's communications. They're arguing among themselves, he reported. Some want to proceed with quarantine, others are suggesting withdrawal. Sophia stepped up beside Lisa. I can see the probability streams, she said. If we make one more demonstration, show them what we're really capable of when we work together, there's a 78% chance they'll choose to leave Earth alone. What kind of demonstration? Jake asked. Sophia smiled. something impossible, something that shows them were not just enhanced humans working together, but the beginning of something entirely new. She closed her eyes and reached out with her consciousness, connecting to enhanced humans around the globe. Jake felt the connection form, linking his mind with thousands of others like him. Together, they reached out beyond Earth's atmosphere, toward the Council fleet itself. Not to attack or threaten, but to demonstrate something the galaxy had never seen before. As one coordinated consciousness, they created a gravitational lens around Earth that focused sunlight into a complex pattern visible from space. The pattern was beautiful and intricate, a mandala of light and energy that pulsed with mathematical precision. But more importantly, the pattern contained a message. Written in the universal language of physics and mathematics, it communicated a simple concept. We are not your enemy. We are something new. The Council fleet hung in space for 3 more hours, analyzing the display and debating among themselves. Finally, Commandant Zektar sent one last broadcast. The Galactic Council withdraws its enforcement fleet from the Sol system. However, Earth is now classified as a Level 5 independent world. Any expansion beyond your solar system will be met with immediate response. You have chosen to remain isolated. The Council will respect that choice as long as you respect ours. Jake watched the alien ships disappear one by one, jumping to faster-than-light speed and vanishing into the depths of space. "Is it over?" he asked. Dr. Vexitar nodded slowly. "For now. Earth is free, but you're also alone. The Council won't trade with you or share technology. You've won your independence, but at the cost of galactic citizenship." Lisa smiled. "I think we can live with that." 5 years later, Jake sat in his apartment overlooking New Phoenix. The city had been rebuilt stronger than before, with enhanced humans working openly alongside normal people in construction, rescue services, and disaster relief. Kyle still lived with him, now working as Earth's official liaison to the few alien species who chose to stay and help humanity develop. The Galactic Council had kept their word about leaving Earth alone, but they also monitored every human ship that ventured beyond the solar system. Jake often thought about that night when Kyle had walked in on him floating his textbooks, such a small moment, but it had led to everything that followed. Enhanced humans were no longer hidden. Earth had defended itself against a galactic government. Humanity had taken its first steps toward becoming something entirely new. His phone buzzed with a message from Sophia. "Probability streams are showing interesting developments beyond Neptune. Want to come see?"